Harry's wife, the hidden daughter. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Many of you have questions about Harry's wife, which I'm able to answer for you because of my expertise in narcissism. This channel is all about narcissism. Yes, there are some instances of entertainment thrown in there. There are some parts which are chilling. All of it is compelling. This channel was created to enable me to extend my legacy by enabling my work to become the unrivaled compendium about narcissism and psychopathy, so that people could watch the videos about all various aspects and facets of narcissism and psychopathy, the different manipulations that are used, the dynamics between the narcissist and victim, famous and infamous narcissists, to increase that understanding and extend my legacy. Harry's wife has proven a very useful tool in that regard. Everything that is done is appertaining to her narcissism, explaining it, why it functions in the way that it does, to help people not only understand why she behaves as she does, but also to extend more widely their understanding about narcissism. Certain detractors of mine really struggle to get their heads around the fact that this is a channel about narcissism, but that's a shortcoming on their part because they are of low cognitive function. They're essentially epsilon semi-morons that can't grasp that talking about Harry's wife and other individuals is a way of educating people about narcissism. I frankly find her boring, but she's such a useful tool, it would be remiss of me not to use her in the way that I do. Recently, I invited you to ask me certain questions that you have about Harry's wife's behaviour, of course, all linked to her narcissism. And you will have seen that various questions have been posed and answered by me as part of that exercise. We addressed this again, where someone asked me, what's the position with regard to the allegation that Harry's wife has a hidden daughter from her first marriage, and that the child was given away, and does she think on this child? Well, first of all, we don't have any compelling evidence to confirm that there was a child from a first marriage, the marriage that was annulled. I know that there are various people that believe that that was the case, and if so, they are entitled to form that opinion. There are others that form the view that that didn't happen, and therefore, similarly, they are allowed to form that view. But for the sake of helping you understand another facet of narcissism, if hypothetically Harry's wife had that first marriage, I think it was to the Jewish gentleman, as alleged, prior to Trevor Engerson and prior to Prince Harry, let us say that there was such a marriage and that a child came out of that union and that she gave that child away to be adopted. The question then becomes, given that that is the flesh and blood of the narcissist, would the narcissist repeatedly think on that child? How would they deal with the fact that the child had been given away? First of all, you have to remember that when you're not on the radar of the narcissist, you simply don't exist. It isn't the case that we sit there spending our time thinking and worrying about you. Certain people who don't understand narcissism portray narcissists as wailing and gnashing their teeth, sat there going over and over in their minds about a particular victim. That doesn't happen. The narcissist might create the impression of obsessing over you, and that's done both benign and malign. So, for instance, I couldn't stop thinking about you all last night. The narcissist didn't think about you once, but now that you've come up on the radar, the narcissism dictates that it's appropriate to revise history by telling a lie and saying, oh, I thought about you so much last night, in order to make you believe that the narcissist is really into you. All that's happened is you weren't thought about last night because the narcissist was focused on other matters and you didn't come up on the narcissist radar. However, today that you did come up on the radar, and as part of a direct assertion of control over you, the narcissism has decided, revise history, tell this victim that we thought about them all last night, thus they will feel special, and thus that will bring them under control and they will provide fuel. Accordingly, the narcissist says to you, I really missed you last night. I couldn't stop thinking about you all night. And you, driven by your own emotional thinking and lack of understanding of who you're dealing with, accept that's what you've been told. And thus, you are brought under control and you provide fuel and perhaps some character traits and residual benefits also. The fact is, the narcissist didn't spend his or her time thinking about you, because that wouldn't be productive. It doesn't give us what we need. Yes, we do think about people, and it might cause the production of thought fuel, but it's ephemeral and weak and doesn't serve much of a purpose. And if we happen to think about you, that means you've come up on the radar. And at that juncture, our narcissism will then ask, in the subconscious, is this person under control, yes or no? If you are, the narcissism will then ask, do we need anything more from them? Fuel, character traits, or residual benefits? If so, you're then likely to be hoovered. If not, you hear nothing from us. If you're not under control, the narcissism has to bring you under control. And that might precipitate a hoover. And if it doesn't, or the hoover fails, then we could still obtain control by the indirect assertion of control, or by the third assertion of control, staying in a position of withdrawal. But the point is this: you do not keep coming up in our heads over and over again. Save where there's a fuel or malice obsession, and those are actually quite rare. For the most part, the narcissist may not think about you for days, weeks, possibly even months. There are former girlfriends of mine who haven't entered my consciousness in years. But should they do so, then I determine whether I have them under control or not. The answer will be I have no information about them, therefore they're not under control. Then I will determine whether I will hoover them, or whether I will smear them to indirectly assert control, or I'll just jettison the thought of them and stay in a position of withdrawal. With Harry's wife, were it the case that she had this daughter, it wouldn't be the case that she would be repeatedly thinking about this mystery daughter. She wouldn't be thinking time and time again. Why? It serves no purpose. In effect, having got rid of her and had her adopted by someone else, or perhaps stayed with the father, that's the end of that matter. There is, of course, the possibility that the daughter could come up on the radar of Harry's wife. For instance, if the former husband got in touch to discuss something in relation to her, or if the daughter attempted to get in touch with Harry's wife. But if we assume nobody's trying to bring her onto the radar, might she still appear? Well, she could, because even though Harry's wife isn't reminded of the hidden daughter by somebody else, something could remind her of that. It might be looking at Lilibet, and that puts her in mind of the hidden daughter. It could be something that's said, something that she's seen that reminds her of the hidden daughter. It might be that the hidden daughter just pops into her head. Either way, when that hidden daughter comes onto her radar, it isn't the case that she then is overcome with remorse for having given the child away. Not at all. She has no remorse. She has no emotional empathy. She's not racked with guilt. She's a narcissist. She has no guilt. Instead, if there is a hidden daughter, and I emphasize the if, then should that hidden daughter come up on the radar, her narcissism, like any other individual that comes up on her radar, asks this question: is the hidden daughter under control or not? And it's likely that there's no information about the hidden daughter. And therefore, the answer is she is not under control. And therefore, the narcissism then has to cause this person to be brought under control. It's highly unlikely to cause Harry's wife to engage in a hoover, because it's highly likely that will fail and that there's the risk of wounding. And instead, it's more likely to cause her to assert control indirectly. But it may well be the case that the hidden daughter hasn't been mentioned to Harry, for instance, or to any of the staff, or to people in the coterie. So she's not going to make mention in terms of, oh, such a shame that I couldn't keep her, how I miss her, and elicit a pity play. The narcissism would recognise that would derail the control of Harry, or a friend, or a staff member, to suddenly make mention of the hidden daughter. And therefore, it doesn't take her down the route. Most likely, it would just cause her to jettison the thought, to cause her to believe it was all very sad, but it was the right thing to do, and then cause her to think about something else instead. And she moves on. And then the hidden daughter, should she exist, is jettisoned. Harry's wife stays in a position of withdrawal. Control is asserted. She doesn't need to gain fuel from this hidden daughter. She gains fuel from other people in the fuel matrix which are around her. There's no need for character traits, and there's no residual benefits to be obtained. Accordingly, if there is a hidden daughter, and that is a matter that you can make up, I'm just explaining it from the perspective of how a narcissist might deal with somebody who was in their life but then has been removed, then the response is, as always, it's in the need for control. There would be no necessity for gaining fuel, character traits, or residual benefits. And simply, she wouldn't be racked with guilt. She wouldn't have a conscience about what had been done. She wouldn't deem that there was anything wrong with the way that she behaved. Her narcissism would tell her that she did the right thing. And if the hidden daughter were to come up on the radar, she would simply be jettisoned again as part of the assertion of control by staying in a position of withdrawal. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.